for Erev Rosh Hashana. But there's a lot. Now we're going to deal with different parts of tefillah, which is a little bit different. Not only during Rosh Hashanah, but also during Aseres Yemei Tshuva. Now, Hagim likfol milas la'ela b'kadosh Aseres Yemei Tshuva. We have a tradition, a minig, to double up la'ela. Instead of saying la'elu, we say la'elu mikol brachos. Sh'ayim la'elu ula'elu b'vav with a vav. Now, what are the two traditions to say la'elu or la'elu ula'elu? It's custom halavush. From near the sheshlikol la'elu kamashikoyfim oisi b'chol sha'at filish or Rosh Hashanah v'yom Kippur v'atam shikoyfim oisi. What's the reasoning behind it? It should be Yom Halalu who mis'al yoyse kaful u'mekuful u'pi beruya m'neshu yoysh v'akisei. Because at the end of the day, Kaviyachol is sitting on his throne, and while he's on his throne, he's on a higher level. Al kisei din, v'kol tzrichim l'shapchoy l'fari l'vakishrach mondina. Just like when you go in for compassion, you do it in a more intricate fashion. Also over here, Kaviyachol to Kaviyachol, we go ahead and do it in a more intricate fashion. And the Matafraim goes even further and says in Matafraim, Kosev, B'Sefer Tshuva B'Ahava, Kosev, Shemasa Kem B'Chol Eschoyes HaYishanis, Loimu Le'elu Le'elu B'Loivov, Koydim Le'Ashniya. However, V'chein Kosev B'Kitzish Shulchan Aruch Sha'im Le'elu Le'elu, not with a Vav. V'chein Kosev Baruch HaShulchin, Mishnah Berurah, Shulchan Aruch Harav, Kosevu, Sha'im Le'elu Le'elu B'Vav. You do it with a Vav. Say Amata, Hebi Sheken Kosev B'Shal Shuva, Chemash B'Sidda Derech HaChaim, Re'isi, and it's brought down, Shemiron HaGoyin Rebbe Yashiv Hoyeshish L'Omer B'Livov, K'divrei, that's how Rebbe Shmuel also held. But I'll tell you, Minig Svad is to do Le'elu Le'elu B'Kol B'Chos. I don't know what you do by Minig Ashkenaz. You're Ashkenaz?
And the US.
Well, it depends on what you ask. What about, I'm asking you. I'm not asking anybody else.
I'm technically smart.
Okay, it's Le'elu. But there's different minhagim. That's why you go to an Ashkenaz shul, you'll say Le'elu, and if you go to a Svad shul, you'll say Le'elu. Okay, that's one halacha that's a major difference. Also, you have at the end of it, which he doesn't mention here, he maybe later on will say it. We say Oisa HaSholem B'Roimov at the end of the Kaddish. Another halacha is that we change the text of the Shmoneh Esrei. Instead of saying Hakel HaKadosh, we say HaMelech HaKadosh. And also, during actual weekday Shmoneh Esrei, instead of saying Melech Oyev Tzedakah Mishpat, we say HaMelech HaMishpat. So what's this halacha with saying this? And what happens with din imta if you made a mistake? Ba'aseres you made tshuva oimer hamelech hakadosh hamelech hamishpat v'imta. Let's say you made a mistake. You realize if you said a kel hakadosh, oishu mesupik, or you're not 100% sure. And normally, it's habitual to go ahead and say Hakel HaKodesh. Imhu ba'melech HaKodesh. Chayz l'rosh. If it's talking about HaMelech HaKodesh, you have to go back to the beginning. Hu melech HaMishpat, and if it's after HaMelech HaMishpat, v'niske ach kedei dibba, and you're going to remember. You only remember it afterwards. And why not? We're going to see. Because at the end of the day, Melech HaYitzchak Mishpat has a Melech as well in it. So, what is this all about? Shulchan Aruch Siman Tov Kod Beis, Ba'aseres Yemei Tshuva Omer Melech HaKadosh VaMelech HaMishpat, V'mtoishu mesupikim hu ba'melech hamishpat choiz l'rosh. Hu ba'melech hamishpat im niski koy misha oker raglov choiz l'broiches yeshiva v'oim mishum ve'elech al seder. Loy niska, this is how Shulchan Aruch paskins. At she'oker raglov choiz l'rosh. You go to the beginning. However, b'simin kuf yud ches yeshiva shefteina choizim ba'melech choiv tzaka u'mishpat. Rosh Hashana v'ad Yom Kippurim choizim ha'melech hamishpat hago. If you did that, in Tzarech Lachsav, V'lo Oymish Yachz El, Vakum Shekol Hashana Oymim Hakel Oyev Tzedakah Mishpat, because they're in a schois that don't mention Hamelech. So if you have a nusach that doesn't mention Hamelech, then you go back to Yeshim Sheftenu. But everybody around here says Melech Oyev Tzedakah Mishpat. So Nimsa Das Hamachabe Shigam Ba Melech HaMishpat Tzarech Lachsav. So it all depends, according to who? It all depends. According to the Mechaber, you go back to, if you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei, you go back to Hashiva Sheftenu. And if you're where you made the mistake, in that bracha. And if you're finished, you have to go Choiz L'Rosh again. But we don't have that problem because we say Melech Oyev Tzedakah Mishpat anyway. According to Ramah, if you say Melech Oyev Tzedakah Mishpat, you don't have to be Choiz L'Rosh. You don't have to go back, even though you made a big mistake. Okay, now comes a little bit more of wrinkles. Im Oma Hakel HaKodesh. Let's say you're in the middle of a Aseret Tshuva, and you made a statement of Hakel HaKodesh. V'hischel b'brocha shel achrei. And you began saying, Ata choynein lo das. Afil iniske tokidei dibur. If you already started saying the words Ata choynein lo das, even if it's tokidei dibur, it's right within seconds. Choiz l'rosh. Milliseconds. However, let's say you didn't begin at the choyne. You just said Hakel HaKodesh, and you're about to start at the choyne. So you didn't start, so you said, oh, no, Hamelech HaKodesh. You don't have to go back. Here comes the $1 million question. What happens if you're not sure if it's Tech K'dei Dibur or not? It's still, there was no hefsik. And since there was no hefsik, you can say HaMelech HaKodesh, you don't have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei.
When you made the bracha, what was his das? Hakel HaKodesh or Melech HaKodesh? When you said Baruch Atah.
In our probabilities, it was Hakel HaKodesh, but since
then
it's
how can you go back?
Because it's. Whoa. What's your
What was his
question?
das? What
I don't see your question.
When you make a bracha, your das is for.
You said Hakel, but at the end of the day, you can rectify.
What happens if somebody is holding an apple, and he has to make Adom, and he has das to make Adom. He says Baruch Atah Hashem.
First of all, Adom is not a problem on an apple, but the Evid.
True. Okay. That's not going to work. That's what the opposite. It's
a carrot. You made an eighth. Okay.
So that's just to make the eighth. So that Baruch Atah was for that.
Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. Nobody, at least that's a little bit go. Doesn't make a difference. Because the Baruch Atah Hashem is going on the Shem Hashem. At the end, you are changing. Just like you have by Eidus, Lahavdu. You say, Kivin Shigit Shuvei Nechoizim Magim. But if you change Turkey Dei Dibba, you can change. So therefore, it's Lahav. You want to know what it's like? It's Lahavdu, like you can go ahead and make an eraser and you can put it in. But once it's in there already, it's dried, the ink is dried, forget about it.
That's after the shame Malchus.
What?
After shame Malchus.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see over here. This halacha, this is an important halacha. I'll tell you something. Years ago, I haven't done it the last couple of years. I put these markers in the sitter. You know, you can get these piece of red or blue tapes, whatever. So yeah, if you have some red marker, that way you have to concentrate, but you don't always see it. So you put the red marker in, you know that there's a change. What is the red marker doing by Akel Kodesh? Or on Rosh Chodesh, you have Yalav Yovoi, so you have a red marker in the place where you have to say Yalav Yovoi, so you'll remember to say Yalav Yovoi. These type of things help out. You should be able to do the proper tefillah.
Kala Kodesh is the one that she had the smallest amount of time. Yalav Yovoi, that's
Also, the Akel Kodesh is the most, it flows. It flows.
What
Meaning it goes automatic. You're on automatic. You're on stick shift. You're on automatic shift.
I mean, adding Hamela in the middle of the...
Yes, it's hard. You're doing a whole year Kel Kodesh, and all of a sudden you're doing a Melech Kodesh. By the time of end of Asayis Yimei Tshuva, you're already in the mode of saying Hamelech HaKodesh. But the first couple of days, it's more you have to concentrate. Otherwise, you're up the creek. That's how it is. Okay, let's see how he goes into it more in detail. It says in Shulchan Aruch, Siman Tov Kov Pei Beis, Beis Im Amar Hakel HaKodesh. If you said Hakel HaKodesh by mistake, V'torchei Dib Niskav Amar Melech HaKodesh Ein Tzarech Lachsa Ad Kan. U'B'Kot U'Shar Tshuva brings down. Because of the Sefer Mata Yehuda Shem Hischel HaBrocha Shachrel Niska. Let's say he began the next bracha. Let's say in the middle of Asayis Yimei Tshuva. We're not talking about in the middle of Rosh Hashana davening, but in the middle of Asayis Yimei Tshuva. And he said, Atachoyne. Afil Turkey Dibachayz L'Rosh. Even you have to go back. Uhuv Matafrayim Mishnebura, Ubekafachayim, Heir, Mashkosav Ramod, the Bchol Abrocha Sorg Shlo Yishib and Brochel Achila Yoisim the Dibba. And that you're not supposed to do when you make a bracha on a peira. There's a halacha that you're not supposed to wait too long from the end of the bracha till you make the bite. Because our place to be Yevanim Shoy Yoisim Dibba. That if you waited more than a Kidei Dibba, let's say you did wait on a bracha Birchas HaPeiros. You made a boy creates, and then you waited around. You procrastinated to take that bite into the apple. He brings down over there that it doesn't make a difference if it's a lengthy, even though, of course, you're supposed to do Torkei Dibba to be able to make the bite. But if you didn't, do you have to say a second time a boy creates or not? So these points can bring down that b'diavad ain't a chayzim mevarach. So the question is, the lefizeh, he brings down from Kafachayim. Who are they? Beneath the don l'char yochel l'sakin afaki they did given l'choshev avsaka. You kept quiet, and all of a sudden you said Akel Kodesh, and you waited a couple half a minute. And then you said, I forgot you have to do, you're ready to do Atachoynin, and after half a minute, and then you have to, can you say HaMelech HaKodesh? You should say it's the same thing like a broch on a peira, that you should be able to say HaMelech HaKodesh.
You said something else.
You didn't say anything else. We're talking about what you didn't say.
You didn't say Akel HaKodesh.
You said Akel HaKodesh.
Yeah, but that's different than a Melech.
1 second, 1 minute. El Shekosov Sheyesh L'Chalik. You can make a distinction. The Hosim da Shtika Haniden who Meshem Afsik B'Shtika Bei Brocha Lachila or Lisi is HaMitzvah. Over there, it's the difference is the question is on the pause. So over there you can say you go back. Because all we're dealing with here is you were supposed to take a bite into the apple at the time after you said Bari Priyates. So of course, like you say, but the evidence is okay. Masha'ain Kain Khan, over here it's completely a different type of circumstance. Because over here you have to rectify what you did improperly. You said the Hakel HaKodesh which was improper. Therefore, it's considered problematic if it's more than a Kedei Dibba. What comes out from this Kaf HaChaim is like this. The Kiyum the Dasar of Yov, Ogo B'Shem Rioz, Rav Hamor, V'Arivid the Meika, Rav Hamor, V'Arivid the Meika Din Imom Hakel HaKodesh in Tzorach Latzo, that technically they paskin, there is certain paskin hold that you don't have to go back. Even though we paskin that you do have to go back. Al Kopanim Kol Misbach Halal Meim de Efshel Sakin Av Achamid Kedei Dibba Koshli Hiskel Roch Shalach Reb. Technically, maybe you can go ahead and go with those paskin and be Yeshal Mi Lismoich and say you can rely on them, and therefore if you didn't start the next bracha, it'll be okay, because the Safik Brachas Lahok Lakan Tavav. Safik Brachas Lahok. This is the raid of the Kaf HaChaim. V'yesh lahakshis al dibra Kaf HaChaim. We have to ask at the outset on this Kaf HaChaim. Our case of Hakel HaKodesh to making a pause between the bracha and the achil, that it's really, what was he thinking in the first place? That is no comparison. The Hasam Hanidin who didn't have sick of Bezamri in the Shia, I feel it be Yosim they did Belechosher Hefsik. It's not considered Hefsik, like we said. Kishas brochli yishuch l'sakta b'amil shayma. To bezed amri the kol shisho yoyis b'nei dibba achig ma brochel shuv lechashav shas brochel lo yaman tekune. Doesn't help. Arak b'tokei dibba chashav kishas habrochel b'shayim l'sakta. Only at the time of Kidei Dibba, because you're rectifying the Hakel HaKodesh by saying now Hamelech HaKodesh. And therefore he holds, you can ask, what was he thinking in the first place? That over here it's a Safik Brachas Lahakol? It's not a Safik Brachas Lahakol over here. You're going to be Saivach on them? It's not a Dimyan. One has, it's meaning Meikara Makisova, Lubasaiv Makisova. At the end of the day, there's no comparison between one and the other. You can say Safik Brachas Lahakol if you can compare one to the other in some type of fashion. Over here, you're comparing apples to oranges, because one is after the bracha. You're going to go ahead and wait a while, which you're not supposed to do. So then you can say the hefsek is not considered a hefsek. But over here, you have to rectify the Hakel HaKodesh. So Shmuel says the nearer the kol sheish sofik imu adayin tachid dibba v'gu'agro yesh lo yiloyim miyad hamelech HaKodesh v'mamshech t'filoso. Meaning, you're not sure if you finished the Kidei Dibba, then you can say the heich shadayin noked le beliba uli le over adayin shir Kidei Dibba mistomu adayin Kidei Dibba, which is basically Shalom Alecha Rebbe. It's not it's a 4-word thing. You're not talking about a long period of time. Adayin Kidei Dibba bracha. Rishikein Hoyer Rabbi Yashiv, Oidain, other places as well. But at the end of the day, if you have a pause and it's after Toich Kedei Dibba, you got to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Because you can't compare this to making a bracha on a peilah and waiting. Because over there the problem is the pause. Over here it's to rectify the words that you said. Okay, the bracha that you said, okay, HaKadosh into HaMelech HaKadosh. And that's the way you should be knowing. Okay, we'll have to see tomorrow one more halacha on this Hakel HaKadosh, and then we'll go right to about what happened, the difference between the first night of Rosh Hashanah and the second night of Rosh Hashanah. If you make the mistake, instead of saying HaMelech HaKadosh, he said Hakel HaKadosh. Continue mention next time. Chadani Melech Hashem Baruch Zat Yisrael, Lafik Chibel and Tori Mitzvahs, Shinema Adonai Chofetz.